Please note that this content is for educational purposes and for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. More details available in the description box. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Grizzly K. This is Grizzly True Crime, and today we continue to deep dive Annette Harris's case. We recently watched majority of the preliminary hearing, which recently happened for Jarvis Butts. It was on January 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th, and that was a hearing to establish whether there was enough evidence to proceed to take this case to trial. The judge decided that yes, there's enough evidence to take the case to trial. And so the next meeting in the courtroom will be on March 7th of 2025. And then they'll proceed, with discussing when the trial date will be set. So I would like to do a detailed timeline and map time with you today. Firstly, welcome to all my moderators, patrons, members, subscribers, any locals in chat. I've seen there's a lot of locals in the comments section as well. Thank you so much for being here. This case took place in Detroit, Michigan. It dates back to January 9th of 2024. I really do wish I knew about this case back then. I hadn't heard of it then, and it's just, oh my goodness, the more you dig, the more you find, and the more absolutely horrifying it is. Of course, so much more information came out, like legal information, factual information from the courtroom, from the preliminary hearing. And those text messages, once you hear them, you can't unhear them. It's just so sad, but yet such an important case to spotlight the tactics and strategies of groomers and predators, right? So there's many lessons to learn here, and hopefully, I hope they will continue to search for Annette and that at some point answers, will be found, that she will be found and put to rest the way that she deserves to, because they've never found her body. This is a no body case. It's a circumstantial evidence case. All right, so what I've been working on for you is, let me just bring up, first let me show you this. Wait, there's a clip. Look at this clip here. Wait, let's just bring it over here.
They said let your comment section rate your smile from 1 to 10.
Shame. Oh my word. Okay, so let's hope that's not a copyright problem with the song, but I just wanted to show you that she's got such a beautiful smile. Now let me bring up my presentation here for you. Okay, so thank you everyone for all your emails as well. It's been very helpful to receive lots of links and information. I have tagged 2 content creators in my description box, one being 7 Mile Radio and the other one Tootie Uncensored, because, wow, Tootie, she's amazing with Maptime as well. You got to go check out her timeline and Maptime and theories, and she's got people that are local that are calling in and giving vital information as well. And 7 Mile Radio has interviewed a lot of Annette's family members, including her dad who passed away last year. And I find those interviews very interesting and extensive. I mean, recently he actually went, I think it was today or yesterday, it was uploaded very recently. 7 Mile Radio went to talk to the aunts, Shannon and Marquita of Annette Harris, right? Okay, so Kelly Perry said I found more info. Yeah, Tootie and Nikki at Night. There's lots of content creators, okay, that are talking about the case, and I'm trying to watch as much as possible. Thank you so much for all your emails. Okay, so here we go with a detailed timeline, and after this we're going to do map time, and after that we're going to be watching the closing arguments from the preliminary hearing so that it's all just tied up for you so that you can hear, okay, let's deep dive this together now, and then we'll watch those closing arguments from the state and from the defense just to hear if there's anything we missed or just where the case ended at the preliminary hearing before the next, we obviously watched the judge's final statements, especially addressing Jarvis Butts. So we've watched that twice already in part 1 and part 4. Okay, so here we are. Janet says, you've been working like crazy. I see you are awesome. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so Annette Harris was born on September 16th of 2010 in Detroit, Michigan. Her mother is Kenyatta Harris. I'm not sure about the spelling. And her father is Mervyn. I think his name is Mervyn Jenkins, but he passed away last year from congestive heart failure. I do not know if this is true or not. So I speculate based on social media. People said that Naziah's mother struggled with substance abuse and struggled with a lot of trauma in her life, and she wanted to give her kids the best life possible, so she let her mother, their biological grandmother, adopt them, right? Like become their legal guardian. So if we go to this, I might actually have to expand it a bit more for you. If we go to this sort of diagram, at the top there we've got Annette Harris, the biological grandmother of Naziah Harris. So this is all really in relation to Naziah Harris and the case, right? So Annette Harris is her biological grandmother. We saw her take the stand. We watched it together on part 4. Okay, everything's timestamped for you. And she's the legal guardian of Naziah, and also she was of her brother. Allegedly, her brother ran away at some point. I think when he was 16 or something, again, that I'm not confirmed on. If there's any information you want to add to this that you know, please send it to me on email with a source as well, a link to the source with a timestamp. That would help so much. All right, so Mervyn, father, Kenyatta, mother, and they had Naziah. I don't think the brother is from the same father, but I'm not sure, okay? So Naziah and her biological brother, the brother apparently ran away from the grandmother's house when he was 16, allegedly. Now, Annette, the grandmother, right? She's got Kenyatta as a daughter, Shannon and Marquita. Shannon and Marquita are twins. And on the right-hand side there, I have this name, Eric Gamble. A lot of people have been sending me this clip of this guy that's kind of inappropriate with Naziah. You know, he's just like hugging her and pulling her onto his lap, and it looks like he's got a beer in his hand or something. I don't know. Now, people online are saying, and I don't know if that's factual or not, but they're kind of showing screenshots of court records that he's a registered SO as well, and he's possibly an uncle, so I don't know exactly where he fits into the family timeline there, but they're saying, why would the grandmother, for instance, allow him around the kids? Okay? So I just wanted to put it there on the side just so that you know that it's there as well. All right? Are we following? So we've got the grandmother. She's got, from what we know, 3 daughters, Kenyatta, Shannon, Marquita. I don't know how many sons she's got or how many other kids she's got. I know that she said that she's got 2 foster kids, and I think it's from one of her sons. Anyway, then we've got Shannon is one of the twins, and she's the one who had 5 kids with Jarvis Butts. So that is how Jarvis got access to Naziah. Now, on the stand, Shannon said that Jarvis was in the picture from when Naziah was 2 years old. So even though the state alleges that Naziah was sexually abused from when she was around 11, that's based on evidence from text messages from his phone. But what if he had another phone before, or if there's other evidence elsewhere? It could have started earlier, because he has allegedly SA'd other children as young as 4. All right? So we've got Jarvis Butts over here. Now, he was sexually abusing Naziah, grooming her. And apparently she got pregnant, and she was only 13 years old, and he is charged with her murder. All right? So Jarvis Butts, he has a lot of kids. Factually, as they say in court, the judge said it, Cordell said it, Jarvis said it, Jarvis' sister said it. They all say he has 13 kids. Now, it's speculated online that he has 20 or more. I wouldn't doubt it, but I like to stick to just what they said in court for now. Of course, we're just like, okay, that's what I know. I heard multiple people in the courtroom state, you know, while they're testifying, that he has 13 children. So I've been trying to figure out, well, who are all the mothers? And I don't think I have them all yet, but I've listened very carefully, and I'm still trying to, I'm sure there's people out there that know this whole family tree better than I do, but I'm trying my very best. I'm trying my very best, and we can work on this, okay? Work in progress. So Jarvis Butts, he apparently, there's one mother of his children, 2 children, called Angel Leonard. And she lives around the Wilshire area. This is public record, okay? Everything is for educational purposes, and it's all public record. Then there's Latricia. We saw her testify at the preliminary hearing. And she has 1 daughter with Jarvis Butts, who's now 2 years old. Then there's Latasha. And she's also got apparently kids with him. And she lives near the area where he disposed of Naziah's clothing, or where his phone pinged, right? Okay, so let me just quickly, I missed a chat. Jill Corby said, I heard that Eric was Annette's brother. And then the rest of that sentence says, and made Annette pregnant at 11? Oh my word. You see, I don't know. And Kelly said Eric is Annette's kid. So you see, I did put him kind of on the right line there. He's just on the side just so that we can confirm it, right? Okay, so there's Angel, Latricia we saw on the stand. Then there's Latasha, who lives near that area where his cell phone pinged, where Neziah's clothing items were found on March 14th of 2024. Then there's Tashiana, a fiance. He doesn't have kids with her. She has 2 of her own children, right? She's the classic lady who said that he was always so secretive with his phone, and she really wanted to get into the phone to see, like, is he cheating? What is he doing? Like, what's happening? And so she actually took a picture of his face, and she tried to put the phone, like the picture, against his phone to see if it could unlock his phone, because it would, like, face recognition do that sometimes. I'm like, that's commitment, hey. She was sleuthing, okay? She was trying hard to get into that phone. She never managed to. So that's Tashiana. We saw her on the stand as well. Then there's another girlfriend that the defense actually mentioned called Regine Rushing. And that's important for Maptime, okay? Alexandrine area. We're going to hear about that area, right? And then there's also apparently a Tanisha Butts. Now, that one I'm not 100% certain of, but if you already count, if Angel has 2 kids, okay, first Shannon has 5, Angel has 2, Latricia 1 daughter, and maybe Tanisha has 2, then there's only 3 kids left, which could be, meaning out of 13, it could then be Latasha and 3 kids. You see? Mrs. Melissa says, I bet you lost a few brain cells on this one prior to be a Grizzly for 26 months. Thank you so much. I think more sleep cells. I think my brain has been overactive. It's been very busy, but haven't had much sleep because, oh my word, like once you really start looking at it, and wait till you see the map time. My map time on the first or second day, no. That thing needs an update. We're doing that today, all right? And then, of course, Jarvis Butts has a business partner called Cordell, right? And just so that you know who Talisha is, it's his son's aunt. And remember, he fixed his son's grandma's Jaguar. And that's why Jarvis and Cordell went to Ypsilanti. If any of you are feeling lost, I'm so sorry about that. I hope you'll watch some of the preliminary hearing, part 1, 2, 3, and 4, because we've just done a deep dive, right? Okay, so that's a little bit of a family tree, a little bit, right? Now, who the heck is this Jarvis Ramon Butts? Did you know that the picture on the right with his little freaking pigtails is from 2012? Yeah, saw that on the court system today. I hadn't noticed that before, but they're like image from 2012. Yes, Stefan, wait till you see the map time. Yes. So, Jarvis Butts was born on November 21st of 1982. He was in prison between 2003 and 2014 for criminal sexual conduct in the 3rd-degree felony and weapons-related charges. Yeah, abusing other children. He met Shannon Harris, Neziah's aunt, approximately 12 years ago is what she said on the stand, so likely when he was released from prison, and then he had 5 children with her. Some were not even school age yet, right? Now, he has at least 13 children. Jarvis was arrested on September 27th of 2024 and has now been charged with the murder of 13-year-old Neziah Harris plus criminal sexual conduct and CSAM charges involving Neziah and 2 other victims. The 2 other victims are now aged 11 and 20, but they were both below the age of 13 at the time. So it sounded like it goes back to 2012-ish, somewhere there. Okay, so I think from what I heard, he has pleaded not guilty. That's a typo. Not guilty. He's pleaded not guilty. Not guilty. Okay, to all the charges. He's in the Wayne County Jail on no bond. That's a big typo. Oh my word. I have to go to the naughty corner now. Not guilty. Yeah, he's literally not going to fess up. He's not just going to take a plea deal. Not that we know him. He hasn't been offered one yet from what I know. But they said the evidence in this case will clearly show that the defendant's alleged actions were beyond predatory. They were vulturous. He groomed and preyed upon Neziah with expertise. We will prove that he killed young Neziah after he found out that she was pregnant at 13 with his child, said prosecutor Kim Worthy. All right, so from September of 2022, Jarvis was sending Neziah sexually explicit messages and asking her for explicit pictures and things, right? He was grooming her. And we heard those text messages. Yeah, so you can find that on the playlist if you do want to hear that. And I did redact genital parts and F words and things like that, if you want a cleaner version of listening to horrifying text messages. So in September of 2023, Neziah told Jarvis that she had missed her period. She also texted him around that time, which was around September 27th, that her stomach was hurting, and he said, "What? I thought you took a pregnancy test that was negative." She said, "I did, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that my stomach is hurting." So that's very sad, you know. And she was asking him for sanitary pads and things, which is also very sad, that she felt she couldn't ask her grandmother or aunts or others in the house. It's just sad. So from December 8th to December 11th of 2023, his phone records show that he searched online about abortions, abortion pills, and drinking red antifreeze. Now, I can tell you that Uncle Google and Grok were looking at me skiff last night, which means side-eyeing me, because the things I was typing into Google to get you this information. Oh my. Oh no. Like, can you drink red antifreeze? What does it taste like? Is it fatal? How much do you need to drink for it to be fatal? Why do people use it for abortion? Oh no, I was asking horrifying questions, but I really wanted to know so I can bring you the information so that maybe you don't have to Google that or ask Grok that. Okay, so 2 to 4 tablespoons, allegedly, according to the internet research, of red antifreeze can be fatal to children. Symptoms could develop within 24 to 72 hours. But they say, I've also read elsewhere, if you put like 100 mils in a cold drink or something, you can barely taste it apparently because it's quite sweet, and so that could, you know, make the symptoms more severe and more rapid. But still would take a few hours if somebody was going to do that. But anyway, so I don't know if this dumbass thought that would cause an abortion of sorts, and it also doesn't quite match the signs of a struggle or of a weapon being used on her hoodie. Right? And then the blood marks, blood stains on the jumpsuit they found and her hoodie. So I don't know. But red antifreeze, which typically contains ethylene glycol or propylene glycol as the primary ingredient, is often described as having a sweet taste. The sweetness is due to the glycol compounds, which makes antifreeze unfortunately attractive to children and animals, increasing the risk of accidental ingestion. However, the taste can also be slightly bitter or have an unpleasant aftertaste depending on the additives and inhibitors included in the formulation. Don't drink it. Don't give anyone it. That's for educational purposes so that we know why was he looking up red antifreeze. And I think it's important for the timeline anyway, right? Okay? AC said Grok is going to send the police to your house. Yeah, the Swiss police are like, lady, what are you researching? I will explain it very well in an interrogation. Okay, so let me just break it down for you guys. Can I bring a presentation? And then I'll tell them all about the case. So now, Cordell King Wright. He said his nickname is King. Okay, which is interesting that the auto repair shop they own from the address I find is called Detroit Tire King. Unless they just changed the name of it since then. I can't find anything else. But anyway, Cordell Wright, nicknamed King, is 38 years old. He was born on November 17th of 1986. He met Jarvis in 2018. He's important to the timeline because he's the last person that saw Neziah with him, okay? He met Jarvis in 2018, and they worked at 2 Frank's car repair shops. So Frank's is like a franchise, I guess. 2 different locations. First, and in May of 2023, they opened an auto repair shop together. He was arrested for domestic violence in 2019. He was sentenced in 2021, and he's been in and out of prison for weapons-related charges and assault charges from 2008 to present date. He's currently incarcerated at the Central Michigan Correctional Facility. The mugshot is from May of 2024, even though VineLink will tell you he was arrested on June 11th of 2024. We saw him testify in November of 2024. We didn't watch it then, we watched it recently. It was part of, I think it was part 1 when we watched it, right? Okay. January 9th of 2024, very important. That's the last time Neziah was seen alive. And we are going to do extensive map time after this. So if you need to go, please come back or watch the replay because you're going to need to see that. Because I was up in the middle of the night adding these points going, oh my word, I didn't know it was there. Or like, what? And then he went, where? There's just, when you really listen to the preliminary hearing, oh my word. Okay, so we're going to look at that. So January 9th of 2024, Neziah, who was in 8th grade, took the bus to J.E. Clark Preparatory Academy in Detroit. She was last seen wearing a white sweater with a black jacket over it, a colorful Rugrats puffy jacket with a fur-lined hood, light blue jeans, Nike shoes, clear frame glasses, and had her hair in 2 braided puff balls. Her grandmother had recently pulled her out of aftercare, and she would normally be home between 3 and 5 p.m. is what they said. The grandmother said, she testified that she had taken Neziah out of aftercare, and it sounded like because she was fighting with the girl at school, like the girl was almost implying that the girl was bullying her or something like that. Others speculate online that it's because she was pregnant and it was becoming very visible. That sounds quite a little bit more plausible to me, right? Now, if you do go watch 2T Uncensored, which I've linked in the description box, if you scared of F-bombs, just buckle up, okay? But she points out, I really like how she does Maptime and timelines like we do, right? I was like, oh my word, okay, she's a grizzly. So the thing is, she also pointed out, as we did as well during the preliminary hearing, where's the backpack? Where is Neziah's jacket with the fur coat? Where is that? You know, they haven't found those items. There's a couple of items of clothing, even like socks and underwear and the jacket and a bag that are missing. And especially when you start hearing, you have to tie everyone's preliminary hearings together to kind of compare their stories, and you start asking yourself some questions, right? Sharon, thank you so much. You said, good to see you all. Yes, good to see you all. So she was last seen wearing that, right? Okay. And her grandmother recently pulled her out. We said that. On that day, Neziah's substitute teacher said that she seemed sad or upset about something, that she lay on the floor and asked for the counselor, but the counselor didn't come up to see her. Now, that makes me very sad as well. That's why the judge is like, everybody failed her. You know, because her substitute teacher, I'm not trying to snark at her. I'm just like, you know, she sounded like she was quite close to Neziah. Neziah would often go and get a snack from her. She said she would give her like a snack bar. And, you know, Annette, the grandmother, the legal guardian as well, would drop the kids off at school so they could have breakfast at school, which I would assume would be provided by the school. You know, and so she would get a snack bar from her substitute teacher. And so she said she was always like bubbly and friendly and happy. But that day, she said she seemed very different. And she lay on the floor and said, I need to see the counselor. And she said, okay. And she told the security guard, all right, if you see the counselor, just tell her to come upstairs to me. And she just didn't, the counselor just never came upstairs, and the substitute teacher just said, well, we just assumed that she didn't come to school that day. But that just sucks. I wonder what she would have told the counselor, right? Now that is based on a Zoom, they Zoom called her, the substitute teacher, as part of this preliminary hearing. We did not watch that together. It's actually kind of hard to find everything because not each news station has got like all these little clips of things all over the place. So that one we actually missed, but I have watched it since, and I will link it for you afterwards. So if you want to go listen to that, but I'm giving you the bullet points, right? Then the lunch lady who spoke to Neziah daily said that she also noticed that she was down or not herself that day. She wasn't bubbly, she wasn't chatty, and she didn't really know why. But that's also very sad because this is like the last day Neziah was ever at school. So Neziah took a picture with a DPS, Detroit Public Schools, issued tablet that day. And I say this is the last photo of her ever taken, the one on the bottom right. That's the last photo of her ever taken. And as the Wayne County District Attorney, Wayne County prosecutor said, that picture is almost like she's waving hello, but little did she know that she's really waving goodbye. I mean, that was such a sad sentence, right? So C. Taylor said that's even more reason Grandma should have been searching if she's having problems with a peer. I know, right? Oh my goodness. So at 2:21 p.m. on that day, Neziah sent Jarvis a text message and said, don't forget, be there before 3. I will let you know when I'm leaving the school, and if you're not there, I will wait. At 2:22 p.m., she said, send okay if you've seen the message so I can delete your number. At 2:23 p.m., Jarvis replied, okay. No text messages were ever sent again between Jarvis and Neziah. Nothing more after that. There is a video of her walking in her neighborhood after getting off the school bus that afternoon at approximately 2:54 p.m., which I'm sure you guys have seen, but if you didn't, I will quickly bring it up here. There we go. This is the one. This is the one, okay?
And stop.
So even there, to me, those don't look like the red and black shoes. Red, white, and black Nike shoes, right? And initially, they don't look blue either. I don't know. They look very white. Look at the shoes. So I don't know if she had like a change of clothing at some point or what, you know, I don't know. Because just her jeans, yes, they described the jeans and the jacket, but her shoes just look different to what they described. We saw pictures of what they found, although they didn't test the shoes and confirm it was absolutely hers. They tested the hoodie and the jumpsuit and everything, and her family members confirmed, yes, those are her shoes. But that's kind of weird. And the shoe was found inside the jumpsuit, and they found that the jumpsuit had her bloodstains on it, right? So I just found her shoes kind of interesting here because the family initially reported that she was last seen wearing blue and white gym shoes. Maybe that's these, I don't know. So at what point did she put on red and white shoes? You know what I mean? Maybe she had it in her backpack. Maybe she packed something. Maybe she thought she's running away with Jarvis. We don't know what he told her. Maybe he's like, let's you and I get out of here. And she's like, okay, I'm going to meet you there. And then I'll delete your number. I don't know. Yeah, Emily Toom says, so I can delete your number. Sounds really final to me. So sus. Very strange, right? So this is the video. Look.
Stopping at 6 seconds into the video.
Over here. So the bus stop is down here. We're going to do map time just now. There she is. Allegedly, that's her.
And moving now to Exhibit 51.
Hello to Core TV. And there she goes as well.
And stopping at 6 seconds into.
Okay, so we've seen that one before. I just want to show you that again in case someone hasn't seen it. Thank you everyone for welcoming Core TV. Welcome Core TV. It's so nice to see you here with us. Okay, so that is the video from 2:54 p.m. So normally she'd get on the bus at 2:40 or 2:45ish, and then she'd get to that bus stop, which is a 5-minute walk from her home. That's what her grandmother said, right? So interesting, you know. So some ask, like, does she maybe go home and get a change of clothing, or, you know, is the family lying about seeing her that day, or did she just walk straight to the shop, the auto repair shop, where she was going to meet Jarvis, or what, right? Okay, so if you guys missed the evidence, the articles of clothing that they found, I'll show you on the map where again. They found a pink jumpsuit, which is also not what Neziah was described wearing. Her family also didn't in court say, yep, that's hers. We know that's hers. So it's just interesting. There's still a lot of questions, I think, in this case. And obviously, it was just a preliminary hearing, right? It's still going to trial. And if they stream the trial, hopefully we'll watch the trial together and hopefully we'll learn more information. But the one shoe was found inside the leg of the jumpsuit. So it's as if it was removed, the jumpsuit and the shoe, really quickly, right? And like bundled up and put in the bushes. And then they found another shoe close by as well. So, okay. I initially thought they found one shoe because I remember the Border Patrol agent saying that. But then if you listen to all the testimony, yeah, they definitely found a pair of Nike shoes. All right. Okay, so now Cordell's timeline. January 9th, the last day that Neziah was seen alive. Very important, okay? Cordell said that he saw Jarvis's kids and his niece, which would be Neziah, which isn't really his niece, but, you know, he had 5 kids with her aunt, so kind of. But, okay, he saw Jarvis's kids and niece at the shop sporadically, as well as his sister, as well as Jarvis's sister would sometimes be there, he said. He said sometimes the kids would spend the day at the shop, sometimes they would come by to do some chores or to get some money. The by is actually B-U-I. I made a typo there as well. They would come by to do some chores or they would come and get some money. He didn't see Neziah alone at the shop. She usually had her cousin with her until January 9th of 2024. And one of Neziah's cousins actually testified. They didn't stream that, obviously, because it's a minor, but there were articles written about it from people who were in the courtroom saying that she said that she did see that Jarvis was, you know, inappropriate with Neziah and knew that he was taking Neziah to another room to do stuff with her, and that Jarvis then also, you know, came onto her, and she said no. When she realized what he's doing, she said no, no, no. So All right, so he didn't normally see Neziah there by himself. It would normally be Neziah and her cousin. Now, there's a car wash and a gas station right next to their auto repair shop. Cordell was on tether from March 14th of 2023 to March 28th of 2024. So he left his home around 6 a.m. He says he usually went to gym and then he went to the shop. He normally opened the shop. Sometimes Jarvis opened the shop. And he had to be home by 9 p.m. every day. On January 9th of 2024, he said that Jarvis was out for a bit that day. And that was likely, if you put that all together, he was likely in court because Jarvis was supposed to be sentenced for a weapons-related charge, which he, I think he pleaded out, he accepted it, he was going to turn himself in. So that was supposed to happen on January 9th in the morning. And apparently he went to court because his fiancée drove him to court on that day. Okay? And so then the date was shifted. Now, I think he may have found out before that day that the date was postponed and he just had to be there in court to hear that it's postponed to February 7th. And it was actually on February 7th that he did turn himself in and he was going to be in prison until December of 2024 and then be out. But since then, I think he thought he's also being a very good guy, just like turning himself in, you know, nothing to see here. Meanwhile, he's now been charged with first-degree murder, CSAM charges, and, you know, SA charges involving Neziah and 2 other victims. So I don't know if he's ever going to get out. I hope not, because, yeah, he's a repeat offender with children, okay? So then he said that Jarvis was out for a bit that day. That's why I say likely in court. And for the hearing that got postponed to February 7th of 2024. That afternoon of January 9th, they drove to AutoZone to pick up a water pump because they were fixing Cordell's son's grandma's Jaguar, a red Jaguar, and it needed a water pump. So they went to AutoZone to pick up the water pump, and then they were returning to the shop when they realized that they forgot something. They turned around and they went to go get it. I hope that's not antifreeze, you know? What did you forget to go get? Maybe it's just a car part. Maybe. But I've seen it speculated on social media like, oh crap, what if it's antifreeze that they forgot? Not they. Jarvis forgot. That he's like, oh, I quickly have to get some antifreeze for someone. Let's go back. You know what I mean? Okay. So Kerry said, yes, I also wonder if Neziah was wearing the jumpsuit as undergarments to try and smooth down the baby bump. That could be possible. And also it was very cold at the time, right? Okay, so on his way back to the shop, Jarvis spotted his niece, pregnant 13-year-old Neziah, and he said to Cordell, oh, there's my niece. And Cordell's like, what? And Jarvis was driving. So the timing is interesting because Jarvis is pretending to be like, oh my word, there's my niece. But meanwhile, Neziah had texted Jarvis and he had responded with okay, and he knew that they were meeting up. And there were no messages after that again, remember? So he says they pulled into Angel's, a liquor store. I could not find that on the map. If somebody knows where it is, please let me know, right? So they pulled into Angel's, a liquor store, and then Neziah hopped into the truck. Jarvis was driving. So Neziah was in the back, and Cordell and Jarvis were in the front with Jarvis driving. There's another mugshot up there, as you saw in the previous slide, of Jarvis Butts. When they got to the shop, Cordell hopped out of the truck, this is according to his testimony in the courtroom, and he continued to work on the Jaguar of his son's grandmother. Jarvis and Neziah stayed in the vehicle for a bit, he says. He didn't say how long, but they stayed in the vehicle for a bit. Neziah got into the front seat, the truck was running, and she was trying to warm herself up. It was very cold that day. Cordell said she was playing on his cell phone. And I'm like, my ears are like, what? Because the whole time I'm like, where's her tablet? Where's her cell phone? Where's her backpack? Where's her jacket? There's many items still missing, you know? And then they say, no, she used the tablet to text Jarvis, and she used Shannon, her aunt's phone, sometimes. But I'm like, but she was playing with a cell phone. Like she had a cell phone apparently with her. Maybe it was Jarvis's phone. But he said she was, I just hear the words of Cordell. He said she was playing on her phone. Now then, because the truck was running the whole time, she was trying to stay warm. The truck ran out of gas. So Jarvis and Cordell pushed it to the gas station, which remember, it's like right next door. They have to push it a few steps, okay, to pump gas. So they pushed it to the gas station. Cordell says he then asked Jarvis, are you going to drop Neziah off? Because he felt that having her there was a distraction from their work. Like he's trying to get this Jaguar done. He's trying to work, and he's kind of looking at Jarvis and being like, are you going to drop her off, or what's happening? And apparently Jarvis says no. He just says no, which is weird. Why is it also weird is because I know some people, raise a little red flag for Cordell, and I understand as well, because why wouldn't Cordell be like, are you going to bring your niece along to Ypsilanti? She's staying with us all night. What's happening here? Like, what is she doing here today? Like, all day? Like, where's her cousin? What's going on, right? So some people think that maybe Cordell knows more than what he's saying. I think he was pretty much Jarvis's best friend, in my opinion, so I also think he could know more than what he's saying, obviously, in the courtroom. He also pretended he couldn't see Jarvis in the courtroom. He lied in plain sight. Well, could he really not see him? He's just like, nope, can't see him. And they're like, okay. Like, if you just look around, he's like, no, you can't see him at all. And I'm like, oh my word. Like, other people are like, yeah, he's right there, even if he's hiding behind his lawyers. Anyway, so Jarvis's sister testified that she was at the shop from 4 p.m. until 6:30 p.m. This is on January 9th of 2024, last day Neziah seen alive. And she believes that she saw Neziah getting in and out of the truck. You know what Jarvis told his sister? He said that's Cordell's niece. That's another red flag. Jarvis lied to his sister to say, hey, that little girl? Yeah, that's Cordell's niece. Oh my word. At 6:38 p.m., Jarvis, Cordell, and Neziah drove to Ypsilanti. Jarvis and Neziah in the Jaguar, apparently Neziah in the front passenger seat, Jarvis driving, and Cordell in his truck. The phone pings prove these times. Because, Cordell said they left around 7:30. No, you left at 6:38, according to the location data, okay? So it took about 35 minutes to get there, and they were there for about 15 minutes, even though Talisha, Cordell's son's auntie, who took the stand and testified she saw Neziah that day with him. She said they were there for about 45 minutes. But Cordell said they were there for about 15 minutes or so, and that Talisha had to go pop out to go to an ATM so that she could pay them, the money for fixing the Jaguar. So I also initially found it kind of strange of like, why are these two suddenly driving to Ypsilanti to like drop off a vehicle? But Cordell said it's because his son's grandma needed it fixed. She'd already brought it to the shop before. It worked for a little bit. And then after that, it started, something was leaking, it wasn't working again. And so she had it towed from Ypsilanti to the shop, which was quite expensive. So he wanted to be nice and help her save costs by driving it there themselves, right? Okay, so instead of having it towed again. So they were there from around 7:02 p.m. to 7:22 p.m. Cordell's son's aunt Talisha saw Neziah there. She said she was sitting next to the TV, and Jarvis introduced Neziah as his niece. You see, so in front of his sister, he's like, that's Cordell's niece. That's the only time he's really done that. Everywhere else he goes, he's like, yeah, that's my niece. Interesting. So they got back to the shop at approximately 8:28 p.m. Cordell said approximately 8:45 because he said, it's getting close now to his tether. He's got to get home. He has to be home by 9 p.m. The cell phone data says they're in the area already, right there by the shop at 8:28 p.m. Okay, now we're going to get to where the map time becomes very important as well. We were just working through this presentation. This is a deep dive timeline and map time, okay? And then we still want to watch closing arguments too. So Jade said they have their own code. They don't identify each other in court. Yeah, snitches get stitches. Can't see them. I was just like amazed they do that. Can't see them. Okay, so I've taken screenshots from the testimony from, we watched this together, this testimony, right? From the cell phone data and the extractions and everything. But let me just tell you the bullet points of the times. I'm focusing on the timeline of what the heck Jarvis was doing and where Neziah may have last been with him. So Jarvis's phone was in the area of his home. The area of his home on Wilshire around 8:48 p.m. and 8:59 p.m. That's important because initially Cordell left the shop at 8:45 p.m. and he said Jarvis and Neziah were alone at the shop. But Jarvis only checked in at the motel at 9:30. And on my map, the last time, I had the wrong location for the motel. It's really the one across the road. It's right across the road. It's 20,000 Harper, right? So I wrote down all the addresses, but now I've actually plugged them all in. We're going to look at that. But like, oh my goodness. So what did he do for those 45 minutes was my question. And so I was thinking, well, obviously something horrible happened at the shop. Did they test everything at the shop? Did they check everything for signs or evidence, anything? Oh my word. So anyway, I was wondering, what did he do between 8:45 and 9:30 when he checked in across the road at a motel? Well, he first went to the area of his home, one of his homes on Wilshire, around 8 p.m. to 8:59 p.m. That lady, we didn't see testify, and now we haven't heard if Naziah was with him or not. Then, at 9 p.m., he drove to another girlfriend's house, someone he has a child with, Latricia, for a car swap. He said that he needed to take his son somewhere, and so he took a blue Nissan Sentra and left his vehicle there. Now, she said he would sometimes park his car like down the road and just walk around the corner, or you'd just like walk from the shop, whatever. So it's not far. It's a 5-minute drive from the shop, okay? That other lady, Latricia's house. So that's public record. So just hear me out and you'll see the maps. It'll all come together. But he literally goes to one girlfriend's house and then right after that to another girlfriend's house. And then he leaves his car there and takes her car. That is so premeditated, whatever's going on there. No wonder he's been charged with first-degree premeditated murder. I'm like, wow. Okay, and then he checked into the Parkcrest Motel at 20,000 Harper at 9:30 p.m. So, did he leave Naziah at the shop and then pop out from 8:48 until, he's back at the store at 9:05? Did he leave her there for 20 minutes? It's possible. So that he could also do a bit of alibi talk, hey to this girlfriend and hello to this girlfriend as well, mother of my child, see the kids a little bit, okay, let's go. I need your car, by the way. And then he takes the car, takes some other lady's car. Can you believe it? Oh my word. And so then let's say, because then he would be, if he did the car swap, it would be quick. He'd be back at the shop at like 10 past. So why is he checking in at 30:30? That tells me, did you go back to the shop? Did you go straight to the motel? Where was Naziah? He could have also had Naziah in his truck, right? I think it was an Escalade or something, and gone to the Wilshire baby mama's house, biological mother of his children, of some of his children. He could have gone there first. Maybe Naziah just stayed in his truck and she didn't see him. And then he could have gone with his truck and just parked it down the road from Latricia's house and then said, hey, I'm going to need your car, and just taken her car, stopped next to his truck, put Naziah in the Nissan, and gone to the motel. That's possible too. Why do we know that Naziah was very likely in the blue Nissan Sentra, the car belonging to Latricia? Is because Latricia found clear glasses that looked just like Naziah's in the back seat. Okay. Are we following? So then he checks in at 20,000 Harper. That's the address of the Parkcrest Motel right across the road. Wait till you see the maps. It's like, it's just like, wait, what? It's right there. Oh my word, okay. And he often went there. And that night he booked room number 69. Checks in at 9:30 p.m. Phone location, a receipt, and the sign-in sheet put him there. But now no one's really saying, there's rumors that they saw Naziah there with him. But there's no like conclusive, I haven't heard anything really conclusive. I've heard from the Wayne County prosecutor's press conference where she said that Jarvis checked in to the motel at 9:30 and after that Naziah's never seen again, which implies that she was there with him. It's very plausible, it makes sense, right? But we don't know that for a fact, okay? So he goes there, we know that, and he went there often. It's a place where he hooked up with women often, right? As the aunt also, I think the aunt also testified to that. Yes, room number 69. So here is a screenshot of where I'm getting the information, and they explained it as well. We watched it together, okay? I think it was part 2 or 3. His phone pinged at the motel between 10:52 p.m. and 12:37 a.m. So like, 23 to 1 a.m. 10:52 p.m. to 12:37 a.m. January 10th. At 1:11 a.m., you know where his phone pings? It pings at 4 East Alexandrine. And when I went there, I saw an apartment block, a pharmacy, and a children's hospital. See, that's when my mind was like, oh my word, antifreeze. But then I'm like, wait, I don't think he would have gotten no help. I'm not sure. Then, when you listen very carefully, we're going to watch the closing arguments later. Oh, the defense brought up, there's that Russian girlfriend that lives there. He went to another girlfriend's house. So that's 3 girlfriends' homes he went to that night. First the one at Wilshire, then the one at Balfour, then the one at Alexandrian. 3 different girlfriends. Some he has kids with, some not. What? And what is he doing? And how long was he there? Because that wasn't so clear. They weren't so, they kind of said like 109 to 111. I'm like, 2 minutes? Were you there for 2 minutes or what? I don't know. And what were you doing there? And where was Naziah? Did you leave her at the motel and then pop out for what? You know, an alibi? Maybe. January, Southern Cali V says, when I went there, okay, you said like you actually went. Look here, I took that Google man and I placed him everywhere and I drove up and down those streets, okay? If I could physically be there, I would. I'd be driving around and definitely going to look which hotel room, where, what is going on here. But okay, we can do a lot with our virtual things, with our maps and timelines and everything, right? And I hope it's helpful to someone. I hope it helps the timeline, if anyone. But there's people doing great timelines out there, right? Okay, January, like 2D, uncensored. January 10th of 2024. Now we clock over to the next morning, right? Early in the morning hours, he's there at his other girlfriend's house, number 3. So where was Jarvis between 1:11 a.m. and 8 a.m.? I want to know. Was he just at the motel? Is that where he was? Was he at that girlfriend's apartment block? What the hell was he doing between 1:11 a.m. and 8 a.m.? Very important. I don't know. They didn't really talk about that. If you heard anything to fill in that gap, please let me know. Between 8 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. on January 10th of 2024, Jarvis returned Latricia's car. She thought he's going to take the car for like 2 hours, but no, he took it all night from 9 p.m. till the next morning, 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Why? Because she's got to take her son to school. Her son, 7 years old. At the time, probably more like 6 years old. So, kindergarten maybe, I don't know. But he returns the car. Maybe she's got another older son, I don't know. But she said she had to take her son to school, so I think he knew, oh crap, I got to return her car now. I got to give it back, right? So he returns her car. Naziah was reported missing to the school on this morning. The dean and the principal called the school police with Annette, the grandmother, present. They didn't call like the police, they called the school police. Okay, cool, but shame, that's it. And that's where it stayed for a month. Anyway, and so, you know what's interesting? Is that the substitute teacher testified that Naziah's presence, she was marked as present that day. I hope that isn't something the defense can use. You know what I mean? Because she wasn't. Clearly not. But she was marked as being present that day. Weird, right? Melissa Loves True Crime said the best place to learn about these tragic cases. You are the best to help raise awareness about these cases. Justice for Naziah. Thank you so much, and thanks for being a member for 16 months. So, they said the glasses, okay, so wait. She was marked as present in error that day. Jarvis did not go to work that day, according to Cordell. Now you got to put Cordell's testimony together with Latricia. Who's Latricia? She is a girlfriend of Jarvis. He has one daughter with her. Okay? And she was very snarky on the stand. I really liked when she answered the defense's question. She was like, hello. She was so snarky. If you missed it, you got to see it. But anyway, okay. So put those stories together. Cordell said, no, Jarvis wasn't at work that day. And the reason he knows it is because he called him 2, 3 or 4 times. And once was even for like an hour. And there was like a 15-minute call. Yeah, no, he wasn't at work. But if you listen very carefully to what Latricia's saying, it really sounds like she's talking about January 10th. Now, she did say she's not sure if it was the 10th or 11th. But then if you listen to her words, it really sounds like it was on the 10th. Because she said, when Jarvis dropped off her vehicle in the morning, later she went to pick up her son from school, and then she went past the shop because she wanted Jarvis to spend some time with his daughter. You know, Jarvis was the father of her daughter, 2 years old. And so Jarvis checked out of the motel room at noon on January 10th of 2024. So I'm going to say, if you add them together, so maybe Jarvis just wasn't at work in the morning. Because in the afternoon, Latricia says she went to the shop the next day, but she's talking about it directly after he borrowed the car. So it sounds to me like January 10th, but let's just put a pin in it. It could be the 11th, but the 10th makes sense based on these other activities, okay? It's coming up. Latricia says she went to the shop the next day, I assume January 10th of 2024, after picking her son up from school so that Jarvis could see his daughter, and her son was in the back of the vehicle playing with clear glasses. She then grabbed the glasses and said, we don't know whose those are. Jarvis saw the glasses, snatched them from her and said, oh, those are my son's glasses. And she doesn't know what he did with them afterwards, and she didn't ask any questions. But when she saw the picture of Neziah, especially in court, they showed her, she says, yeah, looks like those, that looked exactly like that. So that would speculatively be Neziah's glasses in the back of that Nissan, which tells us Jarvis was driving around with that Nissan that night. Nissan, if you're South African like me. Nissan, I say for most people. So where did he go? And you know what I want to know? Maybe we'll find out the trial. How much mileage did he put on that vehicle? Was he just driving around? Because it doesn't seem like he went all that far that night. He was driving around at home, get the car swapped, to the motel, popped out in the middle of the night, and then. So it's almost like he was mostly at the motel that night, you know, but he had the car all night and took it back at 8 in the morning, as I say. And checking out at noon, like you can walk across the road to work. But where's Neziah? That's why I say, what did he do between 1:11 a.m. and 8 a.m.? Okay, so the glasses were most likely Neziah's. Jarvis asked Latricia if he could use her vehicle just one more time and said that he would not be as long this time. He said that he was taking his son somewhere. She says she can't remember if that was January 10th or 11th of 2024. She says he was only gone for 2 to 3 hours, which matches the time that he went to 7 Mile and Berg, which is where the clothing items of Neziah was found. But that was only found on March 14th, just so you know. Later, months later, 2 months later. All right, so the thing is, important to note as well, were the glasses found in the back of her vehicle after the first time he borrowed her vehicle or after the second time? After the first time. As she explains it, after the first time, which means, very important to the timeline of January 9th going into the 10th, motel night, where was Neziah? She was in the car at some point because the glasses were there, if we speculate like that. Or he just chucked her glasses and clothes in the back or something. Where is she? They've never found her body. But they truly believe she was murdered. They've charged him with first-degree premeditated murder. And there's blood stains that were found matching her human blood and her DNA on her jumpsuit and hoodie. Okay, so she said that, yeah, he was just gone for 2 to 3 hours. And she's like, okay, he can borrow the car. And he hadn't really asked to borrow the car before that. Now he's soma is a South African word, just saying, oh yeah, he's soma borrowing it like twice in a row here now. That's a red flag. That's a red flag, right? Yes, thank you, Texas 2 Pugs. January 9th to 10th. Yes, we're getting there. So January 10th at 10:51 p.m., Jarvis's phone is around Greenfield and 7 Mile. And between 11:40 p.m. and January 10th, between 11:40 p.m. on January 10th and 1:34 a.m. on January 11th, the phone is in the area where Neziah's clothing was found. That's a long time. Now, your mind can go many places there. Did he murder her there? Did he bury her there? People say, you know, they ask, did he dismember her there? I don't know. I don't know what he was doing there. But you know what's so crazy? Is that, according to public record, one of the mothers of his children, Latasha, otherwise known as Tasha, she lives right there. She lives right there. Like those circles, some of them cross right over that street where she lives. So what was he doing? Did he go there? You know, did they check her property? I'm not blaming her, I'm blaming him. I'm just saying that they, you know what I mean? Like, what did he hide there at her house? He was right there. He was like 5 minutes from her house. Another one of his, some people don't like this term, baby mamas. That's what they call them in court as well. Cordell said baby mama. He said he went to speak to the baby mama, Tasha. And I was like, well, who? Latricia? No. Tashiana? No. Oh, Tasha, as in Latasha. And you know why that's important? Is because we heard jail calls in the preliminary hearing. And Jarvis and Cordell were talking to each other. And Jarvis asked Cordell to go and check at Tasha's house to look for the phone in the back seat. And I'm like, oh my word, is it this lady? Because that's interesting. And they actually eventually found the phone hidden somewhere behind the back seat of his Cadillac. All right, now, Naziah's shoes, jumpsuit, hoodie were found on March 14th of 2024, but he was in that area from 11:40 p.m. until 1:34 a.m. Now, if you just quickly look at that again, remember he maybe used Latricia's car on this night, because she can't remember, is it the 10th or 11th? Well, both, because it's from the 10th to the 11th. She said he was only gone for 2 to 3 hours, and that matches the time that he drove out there, was out there, and would have driven back. I just don't know if he gave the car back then at what? Did he give the car back at 2 in the morning? I don't know. There's still a lot of gaps in this timeline. Jarvis turned himself in on February 7th of 2024 for a weapons-related charge and would have been in prison until December of 2024. So the state speculates or alleges that they think Jarvis had motive to murder pregnant 13-year-old Naziah because he's already been a S offender, convicted, spent 10 years or more than 10 years in prison for charges related to that. So if now it's going to be like there's a 13-year-old girl pregnant, they alleging that he had motive to murder her. Some people say, but he got so many women pregnant, some also minors, which is just absolutely horrendous how this guy just operated and just harmed so many people, right? But I do think that this was risky for him, if I could word it that way, right? So the judge alleged that maybe this was an abortion gone wrong. I don't know. It seems a little more violent to me based on what they found on the clothing items, right? Which is very sad as well. So they say that if he went to prison, he turned himself in on February 7th and he thought he's going to be there until December of 2024. So what he didn't want, according to what the state said, which we'll hear later, is for Naziah to have his child while he's in prison, serving that 1-year sentence. And then for all the mothers of his children to find out that he got his 13-year-old niece pregnant. You know what I mean? Okay, so on February 14th of 2024, the Detroit police held a press conference. We watched that together already. And on September 27th of 2024, Jarvis Butts was charged with the murder of Naziah Harris and SA charges, including from 2 other victims. So where's Naziah? Right, where is Naziah? All right, so I hope that was helpful. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to get the map. Okay, are we ready? And we have to drive around as well. We're going to have to, I'm going to see I've got 2 types of maps going here. So hold on 1 second. Let's do this. And are we ready now for some map time? Okay, and we are back, and let me bring up the map. Nina says Tasha is the fiance, not the BM. No, that's Tashiana Davis is the fiance. There's another one called Latasha, who is a BM, baby mama, a mother of some children of his, and who lives in the area where he was disposing of Naziah's clothing items. Well, based on his cell phone being there. Okay, so what we have here is a comprehensive map, so that we can see where everything started. I just want to make sure the order's right. So I'm just going to read it to you. Cornwall Street and 3 Mile Drive. That's where Naziah was seen getting off the bus. And there's a bus stop drop off. And then there's ring cam of Naziah. Then the auto repair shop. They went to AutoZone Parts. Ypsilanti. Back to the shop. Jarvis's house. The Nissan pickup. The Parkrest Motel. Then the Bicentennial Tower or Alexandrine Street to another girlfriend's house, Regine Rushing. And then Greenfield Road and 7 Mile, where the ID card was found and where the clothing was found. Okay, so that seems like a good order. So we are in Detroit, Michigan, as you can see here. And let's zoom in here a little bit quickly. So the first thing I want to show you before I do a slideshow, well, I'll just even show it like this. Here's the auto repair shop. There's also a sit-go and a car wash right here. And look at this, just look at this. The Parkrest Motel is right across the road. Oh my word. Yes, buckle up everyone. Stefan, are you telling them? Please tell them. Yes, so that Mickey says for educational purposes only. This is based on public record, okay? I'm not doxing anyone. I'm not sharing any information that is personally identifiable or anything like that. It's all public record, nothing specific either, you know, with personal addresses and things like that. It's just a general overview of where, thank you, that Mickey, for this disclaimer that I need to say for YouTube, okay? It's a general overview that we're doing to see where Jarvis Butts may have hidden Annette Harris's body. This is a criminal case and they have never found her body. And I find that so incredibly sad, right? Okay, so if we go here to this auto repair shop, we're gonna make this Google man work today. Okay, here we go. So we are now at this auto repair shop. Hello, can you please drive down there? Thank you. There's the car wash. Here's it says auto and oil. So maybe it has changed now to that Detroit tire. King Tire, maybe King. His nickname was King, sorry, not Kim. King, Cordell, right? Maybe he changed the name of it when Jarvis was arrested because obviously he would have had to run this shop without Jarvis for about 4 months before he was arrested too, okay? Sure, so actually not shame, it's weapons related charges, domestic violence, all sorts of things. Oh dear, oh no. So okay, auto and oil is what it says here, and here's the sit go as well, and this is where the auto repair shop, and this is where Cordell saw Annette and Jarvis when Cordell left here at 8:45 p.m. on January 9th. This is where Jarvis and Annette were. And what I find strange is that Annette's bio grandmother, legal guardian, adoptive mother realized she hadn't come home from school, not at 3, not at 4, not at 5, not at 6. She wasn't at aftercare, not at 7, not at 8. Oh, wow. Now we're almost at 9. No one's really looking for her. All that happened was that Jarvis's girlfriend, Shannon, the one he had 5 children with, Annette's aunt, she said, still no Tada. Like that was Tada. That was the nickname they had for Annette. I don't know why, but they kind of implied that they're looking for, but I'm not so sure. They only really reported her missing the next day. There didn't seem to be much concern, right? By the way, 7 Mile Radio, who's linked, it's a channel, YouTube channel, podcast, linked in my description box for you if you want to go check it out, mentioned today, and I see I don't have it on here, I think it's on the Justice for Annette Harris Facebook page. He mentioned today that in a jail call, Jarvis has recently thrown Shannon under the bus and said, she killed Annette. He says, I didn't kill her, she killed her. Wow. So that's getting quite interesting as well. I mean, I think people like him could do that, just throw people under the bus, but also, I don't know, if they start turning on each other, it could get very interesting, right? Okay, so this is where that is. And so when the car was in there, Jarvis's car, and Annette was warming herself up and the car was running and they ran out of gas, they literally just had to push the car here to get some more gas, right? Now look at this, okay, we go here. And right there is where they checked in. This is now called the Travel Inn, but that's 20,000 Hopper, the Park Crest Inn, or the Park Crest Motel, right? Yeah, Bianca says, I thought he went to the Travel Inn Motel. It's called the Travel Inn Motel now. But it was called, I don't know when the name changed, the Park Crest Inn, and if you research it, that's pretty much where it is. I think my chat is a little bit stuck now. I can't see it moving, so just hold on one second. I want to see what you guys are saying as we do this map time, so hold on one second. I just want to refresh. But can you believe, like, I don't know, my jaw was a little bit on the floor when I realized, wow, he really didn't go very far. And weird how they didn't just walk across the road, you know, because Annette wouldn't have known what he was planning or up to. I don't think. I don't know. But they could have literally just walked across the road. So this whole thing of like getting Latricia's car is strange. You know? To go from the shop at 8:45 p.m. and then straight first home to Wilshire to one of his girlfriends, and then after that go to another girlfriend and be like, hey, can I use your car? And then get the car and then check in there at 9:30? That's interesting. Don't you think? Okay, so let me just bring up my own timeline so I can refer to it while I show you this map. Hold on one second. Okay, we're going to go there. So we're here January 9th, 9:30 p.m. He checks in there. Yes? Okay, but before that, I just wanted to show you that first. How close that really is. Okay, Google man, just give the streets a little bit of a break there. Otherwise they're all blue and we can't see a thing. So if we just zoom out here quickly and orientate ourselves, otherwise we feel very lost. This right here, Cornwall Street and 3 Mile Drive, again, public information, apparently a 5-minute walk from home, is where the bus stops. It stops around here, and so she was spotted on ring cam over here. So let's go there quickly. This is now in the afternoon. She was in 8th grade. She went to the J.E. Clark Preparatory Academy in Detroit, and at 2:21 she texted Jarvis, "Don't forget, be there before 3. I'll let you know when I'm leaving the school. If you're not there, I will wait." At 2:22 she said, "Okay, if you've send okay if you've seen the message so I can delete your number." And then he said at 2:23, "Okay." She gets on the bus at around 2:40 or 2:45 p.m. and at 2:54 p.m. on January 9th of 2024. Naziah is right here. Okay, so she gets dropped off here. We have to orientate ourselves. It would be, she's dropped off around here. This around here is where they pointed at in the preliminary hearing. It would be the bus stop area. And so she started walking, right? So Scylla said, not just oil changes at that shop. I think I know what you mean. Some people said it's a facade for some very questionable activities, but I don't know. That's again rumor. Thank you so much. So Naziah is seen. She gets dropped off here and she's walking up the road here and she makes a right, okay? So we go here. This is the home that caught her on surveillance. You can see it if you see that clip again that we looked at earlier. You know this one? You can see the pathways and everything. You see that? You can see the pathways of what it looks like here if you want to orientate yourself like that. So she took a right. And she walked down this way, and then they don't know exactly where she went. Did she walk to the shop or not? I think it would have been like over an hour of walking, and it was cold. I do think it's possible. I like walking a lot. I think I would be like, all right, I'm just going to walk. But I don't know. Maybe she took some other public transport to get closer to the auto repair shop. Now, I want to give credit quickly here to Tootie Uncensored, who I've mentioned a few times in the stream already. Link below, okay? She did some map time around here. And she was really making me laugh because of how she investigated, right? Over here, she said she thinks that Naziah's home may be down here. And so she drove down here and saying that Naziah went, instead of taking a left home, she took a right. And she was going towards the auto repair shop. But she drove down here, so this is again speculative. I have no idea. I don't know if this is Shannon or not, but she says that she thinks that this is Shannon and the kids. And there are a lot of kids there. You can see it because there were at least, Shannon had 5 kids, grandmother, 2 foster kids, and Naziah would have been 8 kids living at this house. So it could be, I don't know, again, it's public information. It's just a street on Google Maps. And so if you go watch Tootie Uncensored, her timeline, you'll see how she found this. And she said, there's Shannon, right? So if that is where Naziah's home was, then yeah, then she didn't turn left to go home, she turned right. She got dropped off. She got dropped off over here, and then she walked this way and she turned right. And again, I think the shoes are interesting. I don't know at what point her shoes would have changed or what. But here's the home that captured that, right? I didn't actually see which camera or where, but one of these cameras right here at the home saw Naziah in that last seen clip of her. Last ever seen, right? Okay. Kerry said, Gizla 100, also Naziah would have been walking in the January cold, 4, 5, 6 months pregnant. I do wonder if Butts intercepted her. Yeah, I don't know. But he did remember they were driving back from the auto zone, Cordell and Jarvis, and he saw Naziah on Harper Road, which is quite close then to the store already. And he said, hey, there's my niece, you know. And he pretended like, oh my word, there's my niece. Let's just stop the vehicle and pick her up. But I mean, Jarvis knew she was coming over there, right? Okay, so we've done that part of the map time there. Yes, so we've seen that. So then after that, chill Google man. So Naziah goes from there. So it's quite farish, eh? She goes from there and maybe takes public transport and she goes to this auto repair shop. They are there and we've done the timeline of how long they were there. She was there from, the sister saw her from already around 4 p.m. until, which would also match the time of walking there, but let's just say her sister, maybe she could have been there from before. Jarvis's sister said that she saw a little girl there with him from 4 p.m. until 6:30 p.m. And at 6:38 p.m., Jarvis, Cordell, and Naziah drove to Ypsilanti. So We'll zoom out again. Ypsilanti is all the way up here. But it takes about 35 minutes to get there. So they went from the shop to Ypsilanti and back. All right, and when they got back, then, oh, here's the AutoZone parts where I speculate they may have gone. Here's the auto repair shop. I think this road here could be Harper Road. It's either this one or this one this way. And anyway, they spotted Neziah on Harper Road, right? So if she was coming from home, here, walking to the auto repair shop perhaps, or getting public transport or whatever it is, and somewhere along Harper Road they spotted Neziah. And so I don't know if they went to this AutoZone. Cordell mentioned an AutoZone to get the water pump and then turned around again for something that they missed. Okay, so are we all following, right? Okay, so they went back to that auto repair shop, and then, as we know, Cordell left because he was on tether. And so at the auto repair shop was Neziah and Jarvis. And then he went, look here, he went from there to this Wilshire area, general area, nothing specific, okay? He went to this Wilshire area, don't know why, don't know for what, don't know if Neziah was with him. The defense does question that. And then after that, he went to this Balfour area, street area, for the Nissan pickup. So it's kind of weird to see that just like this, right? He goes from the auto repair shop to his home, one of his homes. His sister said his home is really where he puts his head down at night. He's like really doing the rounds, right? He's got many homes, many ladies with many children of his. So he goes to his home, he goes to pick up the Nissan, and then he goes to the motel or back to the shop and then the motel. And then he checks in at this Parkrest Motel at 9:30. Okay, so we're going to look at it quickly. We turn around. So this would be the travel in. Now it was called the Parkrest Motel, and he was apparently a regular there. Now the defense alleges that because he's a regular there, why would he take someone there if he was planning to kill them? And I'm like, because he's a regular there. Like he's so like, hey, because he's so comfortable with everyone there. He apparently takes a lot of women there. So you know what makes me sad is that he could have, because we heard the text messages and the grooming, he could have said to Neziah, I'm gonna take you there. But he obviously allegedly had sinister plans for her. Right? Yeah. Emily Toom says that's a no-tell motel. And one of the detectives mentioned that there is a video camera in the lobby and somewhere outside, but she couldn't be too specific about it, and they had been checking some of that. Apparently, I don't know. It sounds like they couldn't get video surveillance from that day, or if, I don't know. I don't know if they have video surveillance or not. They have a lot of evidence. Maybe they're just not showing that right now. But they do have a receipt of him there, a sign-in sheet where he literally wrote his name, cell phone number, home address, everything there. Sign-in sheet. He went there. There's no conclusive proof that Neziah was there with him. But if not, then where? I would think that's logical, but who knows, right? What does that mean? Just an observation, you drive up to the door at a motel. The travel inn looks like a hotel. Oh, Parkrest Inn. That's what they call it. Parkrest Inn Motel. That's what they called it at the preliminary hearing. Myri, welcome. So they go here, and his phone is pinging there from, just wait, if anyone remembers Pop Quiz, his phone is pinging there, wait, January 9th, okay, at the motel between 10:52 p.m. and 12:37 a.m. And then he decides to take a little drive. And where does he go? Where does he go? He goes, I think it was southward. Yeah, to this area near the Bicentennial Tower. He goes around here. Okay. Let's put the little Google man here. So he goes to this area. So I was just looking around. I mean, like, what is this? You know, so here is what they mentioned in the courtroom. 4 East, you know. And so it says Bicentennial Tower. So I drove around here a little bit and I'm like, what else do they have? A pharmacy. Check the opening hours. That's not going to work because I thought, did he go to a pharmacy? No. That would be closed. Wait, it would be closed at 5:30 p.m. or so. Let me just see. More pharmacy. Yes, let's see. The opening hours are 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday, Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So yeah, no, pharmacy ruled out. So I'm like, what was he doing here? And then I noticed there's also a hospital. There's a children's hospital right around here as well. So if you just even go to the sign here, sorry, I hope you buckled up. It says children's hospital. I'm like, oh my word, like, was he trying to go to the children's hospital? No. One of his girlfriends, according to what the defense said in their closing arguments, lives here, possibly in this apartment building. And if you're forgetting now who is who and what is what, then he went there first, then he went to Latricia, okay? This one, Regine, apparently lives around this area, like literally to where he went. So that's interesting. Stefan says, buckle up, G is driving. Fisher Blue said Ypsilanti, Michigan is way west of what you showed in the map, past Plymouth and right before Ann. Is that so? Then why does it come up like that as Ypsilanti? That's what I want to know. Why? Why does Google Maps lie to me like that if it says that's Ypsilanti? I don't know. So yeah, he didn't go to a children's hospital. He didn't go to a pharmacy. You could see where my brain went. I'm like, oh my word, what is he trying to do? Nope. He went to visit another girlfriend apparently, or tried to, because the cell phone data, they only showed about 2 minutes that he was like hovering around there. They didn't show anything beyond that, which is why I asked, what is he doing between 1:11 a.m. and 8 a.m.? Anyway, let's say he was hovering around there, we're speculating, couldn't get hold of this girlfriend and decided, ooh, okay, go back to the motel, goes back to the motel, and the next day he, at 8 o'clock in the morning, goes to drop the Nissan off again at Latricia's house. He drops the Nissan off again, and I speculate he goes to work that afternoon based on what Latricia said, even though Cordell's like, no, he wasn't there that day. Are you sure? Then, okay, after that, I just want to quickly, let's type in Ypsilanti. Ypsilanti. See, that's Ypsilanti. Must I say town? Township, Ypsilanti Township, Michigan. Ah, like that, like that. Let's save that to the project. And let's, where's the other one? Here. Okay, I'm going to delete that one and I will move this one up. Thank you so much. Wait, who was that from? Fisher Blue. Thank you so much. Okay, let's close that. So further, like that? Further west. Okay, so what happens then? So 8 o'clock, he's giving Latricia her car back. That afternoon, she says she's going to the shop and she's, he's snatching the clear glasses out of her hand and saying that night he goes back to Latricia's house where the Nissan is and says, I need your car. I need your car just one more time. I'm just going to be gone for 2 to 3 hours. Okay? So what does he do that night? All right? Firstly, he checks out of the hotel at noon. This Park Crest Motel. He checks out at noon. Did he have a suitcase? We've seen a case recently, the Jason Chen trial, involving a suitcase. Did he have a suitcase? I want to know. If Neziah went there with him, and no one saw her since, okay, how is that possible? What the heck happened there? Okay, so the glasses, right? So we went over that, and then we go to January 10th of 2024 at 10:51 p.m. So hence I speculate that this dude worked that afternoon until 9 p.m. Cordell leaves at 8:45. We don't know this, I'm speculating. But then he goes to pick up the vehicle again and heads out. Where does he go? He goes to this area, this Greenfield Road and 7 Mile. His phone pings there. And I think he's in Latricia's car. His phone pings there. And then, look at this. I didn't know this is where the ID was found. Remember we heard a witness say that they stepped over an ID card for 2.5 weeks. She was such a sweet lady. She stepped over this ID card for 2.5 weeks, and eventually she thought, you know what, let me just pick up this ID card. And she picked it up and turned it around, and she's like, oh my word, it says Annette Harris, and she'd heard about the case. She heard that Annette was missing. You know where that ID card was found? Around here, which is St. Martin and Evergreen. Around this area is where she said, right? And so, let's put this map over here. Again, to the uncensored, she found this exact spot right here. So that was amazing. I'm like, there it is. That's where she found it. That's where she found the ID card. But that's just so weird, because I actually thought initially, was it close to like Nazaya's bus stop or close to a home or close to the auto repair shop. Where exactly did they find that ID card? Oh, here. Just chucked out here, which is far enough from Nazaya's home, you know? And that was found. Ooh, memory. Wait. I think she said she found it at the end of Feb, right? Okay, so Court Lurker said, I work at a hotel, and if guests don't come down to check out by checkout time, the front desk just does. If the CO was at noon, that would make sense. Checkout was at noon. That would make sense. Interesting. It could be that. But I think I have to listen to that test. I've listened to it a few times now. But I think what they implied was that he like, maybe it was just signed the sign-in sheet that he signed. But it sounded like they're implying that he signed out. But maybe it was an automatic checkout as well. That could be very possible as well. Okay, so here's the St. Martin and Evergreen area. And so Texas 2 Pugs, thank you so much. You can email me those. I do have the addresses, but we don't want to be specific. YouTube doesn't like that. To say, don't do that. Okay, so around this area is where the ID card was found. Okay, St. Martin and Evergreen, that's kind of where. And it's interesting because his phone on January 10th, the next day, after Nazaya's never seen again, his phone is pinging. We have to orientate ourselves again. ID card is found here. His phone pinged at this Greenfield Road in 7 Mile. Now, I don't know who's there or what's there and how long his phone pinged there, but to me it looked like, are you saying you were there for a little bit? Who's there? I don't know. The ID card was found kind of if he's driving along this way. Here's the ID card. He must have had turned, obviously, but there's the ID card found. And then the clothing was found. This would be 7 Mile and Berg Road, as they showed us before, and I just, you know, set it over there. But the Border Patrol agent gave us exact coordinates, and he said decimal points, as he said, corrected himself. But it's right here. It's right here in this wooded area where they found Nazaya's articles of clothing. So they talked about this large parking space. When I showed you the map time, I thought it was this, because this looks like a large parking space to me too, okay? But they meant a much bigger one. And here's the Rouge River. And I mean, it was cold. It was very cold in as well. So there must have been quite a bit of snow there as well. And so anyway, so if he parked around here that night, because he was out there from 10:51 p.m. his phone is around Greenfield and 7 Mile. And at 11:40 p.m., between 11:40 p.m. and 1:34 a.m., that's 11:40, 12:40, almost 1, almost 2 hours, he is in this area where the clothing is found and kind of in plain sight. It's kind of weird that he did that, right? Like the bundled up clothing and the shoes. That's a very strange thing. Some people think it could have been like a decoy, like a red herring, like something to deflect. I don't know. It's a very strange area to just go to and do that. Apparently there's also abandoned houses and things here that I hear the community saying they want them to check, but obviously they must stay safe. Yeah, someone says very, very dark outside. I can only imagine it must have been really dark at that time outside as well, right? Okay, so the clothing was found at those coordinates here, which is also, there is the river here as well, by the way. And they did search the river. They said they searched that river extensively. They had drones, helicopters, dogs, divers, everything. They couldn't find Nazaya. So, you know what's interesting? Okay, we are orientated now. Where is that now? Interesting. Wait. I'll have to, let me just quickly do this and show this other map quickly, because it should be there. Wait, we're gonna go, no, not Evergreen. Did I ever get to? Interesting. Okay, I'll keep it very general here. So where the clothing was found, just south of it, just south, around this area, I think it is. Wait, I'm gonna just check on my map there. Yeah. Okay, so the clothing is found here. And around, here's the highway, around here-ish, one of the mothers of his children lives there. So it's really close, you know, it's really actually very close. to where he was, which if he was at her house, the phone could have technically still maybe been pinging off the same tower, or maybe he could have left his phone and car there and gone to her house. Again, alibi, I don't know. But that's interesting. Kathleen said maybe he had a flat tire. That would be uncanny. Oh my word, imagine that. Maybe he had a flat tire. But yes, that is interesting that the Latasha, apparently, the one that I think Cordell spoke to, not Tashiana, not the fiance, because the fiance said, no, I never spoke to him. Oh, so it's probably this one. And maybe he has a son here because he keeps telling Latricia, I have to take my son somewhere. Well, technically he did, you know what I mean? He's kind of covering his ass, if you know what I mean. He's like, I'm taking my son to where he lives. I'm speculating. Around here somewhere. I'm going to go pick him up or spend some time or whatever he's doing. I think it's alibi talk. But anyway, I just find that interesting that somebody that he knows very well and has children with lives right near this area. So I hope they've also checked her backyard and freezer and everything else, okay? Just everything around her house, because you just never know. You just never know what these dudes will do. Okay, so we have that, and then I think that's pretty much our timeline. Okay, so that's our timeline. So now what we're going to do is we're going to watch the closing arguments so that you can see all of that now explained very nicely as well from the state and from the defense, of course, as well. They've also got their theories, right? So let's just boost it, and we will watch this together now. We didn't watch it before. From the preliminary hearing. It's closing arguments from the preliminary hearing before the judge made a decision, and we've already watched the judge's decision, right? Okay, so I will link this for you as well. Hopefully you can hear this. Here we go.
State of Michigan versus Jarvis Butts, 2459617. Are the people ready for the binder argument?
Yes, Judge, we are.
Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you. And before I get to the real issue on the homicide charge, I'm going to take care of a few preliminary matters. It is the people's intent to increase count 3, which is currently criminal sexual conduct second degree, to criminal sexual conduct first degree, person under 13, defendant 17 years of age or older. We have the defendant's birthday on the record, and that would be based on the testimony of the one minor witness that testified, as well as Cordell Wright's testimony. The minor witness testified that it happened at the old shop, and when Ms. Ripley was asking questions, she identified that as being the location. Cordell Wright testified back in November that they didn't move from that shop, which was at East Warren and Neff in the city of Detroit, until May or June, based on Neziah's birthday, which is in her medical records. At that time, she would have been 12 years old, and the minor witness testified clearly.
Just so you know, this is not long. I think the state talks for less than, 15 minutes. The defense for just less than 20 minutes, and then 5 minutes more. So it's not too much, okay? We'll be here for just 40 minutes or so more. And if for those who can't stay, I hope you'll come back and check this out, because it is important as well. They do say, obviously, everything they need to say to make the argument that this case should proceed to trial.
Clearly describing an act of penetration, specifically penis to anal opening. With respect to the criminal sexual, child sexually abusive activity, that would be based on the text messages as well as the minor's testimony as well. Combining those two things satisfies the elements of those charges. However, going to count 1 in murder in the first degree premeditated, I would like to go through and put some of the pieces together. And we are sitting here today, or standing here today in court on January 9th, 2025, which is 1 year, almost to the minute, the last time Neziah was seen on a camera in the city of Detroit, which is on the screen now. The last time that she was seen was on January 9th, 2024 at 2:56, getting off of the bus at 3 Mile Drive in Cornwall and walking down Bedford. She was walking towards what she didn't know at the time would be Jarvis Butts and her ultimate murder by him. We take that moment in time and then go to Cordell Wright's testimony where he testified that they picked Neziah up on their way back to their shop at 9000 Connor, and they proceeded with her to that location. We have Jarvis Butts' sister's testimony, Tijuana Butts, who did say that she saw a young girl with a very descriptive and distinct jacket getting in and out of that car, the white Cadillac Escalade. That would have been before Jarvis, Cordell, and Neziah departed for Ypsilanti. We have Sergeant O'Rourke's testimony as to his cell phone locations based on cell tower information, and the historical call detail records, which placed them consistent going out to Ypsilanti. And then we have Cordell's testimony getting them back to the shop. Talacia Moore also testified to seeing Neziah in Ypsilanti with Cordell and Jarvis. Cordell, as we know, testified that he had to get back to his house based on his tether hours by 9 p.m. And that is the last time that anyone who is not Jarvis Butts would see Neziah Harris alive. From the shop, we proceed out to the Park Crest Inn, where Jarvis Butts checked into a hotel at 9:30 p.m. and Sergeant O'Rourke's testimony corroborates this, placing his phone in the area of that 20,000 Harper address at around midnight till early in the next morning on the 10th.
Are you able to visualize it? I hope so, because I hope the presentation and the Maptime helps you visualize everything that they're now saying, which is why we're watching this at the end, right? So, and we'll be ready for the trial. Whenever they show a timeline at the trial, we'll be ready for that. Somebody said, Val said, I've been in that motel so many times. It's so many cameras outside, inside. It's also a green light where police monitor the cameras. Also, certain people are strict at that front desk. Very interesting. So maybe they do have footage.
Using the data that you see on the screen in those times. Recapping January 9th, this is the last time that we have any sort of communication from Neziah. There was, if you look at those messages that Sergeant Jones went through and read, just between Neziah and Jarvis, there was consistent and constant communication up until January 9th. There's also no messages from Jarvis after Neziah goes missing on the 9th, looking for her, seeing where she is, trying to find her, trying to help, as anyone should do at that time, her family locate her. There's no messages to her phone, to that Text Now account from Jarvis Butts' phone. Her legal guardian and grandmother, Annette Harris, has not seen any social media posts. The OIC of the case, Sergeant Jones, has not seen anything for a total of 1 year now. The Lieutenant George Harris, who was involved in the investigation in the first month, didn't see anything that he saw from social media or Text Now after the 9th. Jarvis Butts on the 9th, we know, borrowed Latricia Johnson's car overnight, which was unusual. He borrowed that and then again borrowed it on the 10th or 11th. We know that Neziah's glasses were found in that car sometime after the 10th or 11th when Latricia Johnson was at that shop and Jarvis Butts snatches them out of her hand. From the Park Crest Inn and from January 9th, we go out to 7 Mile and Burke. This is by far the most important location in this case because we know that the defendant spent from 11:40 p.m. on the 10th to 1:34 a.m., nearly 2 hours in that area, in that wooded area where the Rouge River runs through. And to give, this is from the slideshow of the scene photos that were taken at 7 Mile and Burke. This is the area where it's the people's theory Jarvis Butts did at least one of two things. Either killed Neziah at 7 Mile and Burke, but at the very least dumped her body in this location. We know this because of the evidence that was found there, specifically the black hoodie, which you see in this photo here, as well as the pink bodysuit and the shoes that we confirmed, or that are hers based on the picture that the OIC received from her brother. And those items were collected. The black hoodie and pink jumpsuit were tested. And importantly, Rion Green testified as to which swabs were which. This analysis here and hypothesis and result pertains to the right shoulder swab on Neziah Harris's black hoodie that she took that picture in when she was in school on January 9th. The one, importantly, that Annette Harris testified was in good condition when Neziah left. We will get to pictures of that, but this shows that Neziah Harris's DNA is there as well as Jarvis. And importantly, this is one of the stain swabs that was positive not just for blood, but human blood based on the hemotrace results. In the next one, we have, this pertains to not the stain swabs, but the regular swab that Rion Green testified was a wearer ID swab. Importantly here, Jarvis Butts' DNA from that swab that would have been taken around the neck of that sweater, or the end of the arms of that sweater, is there with very strong support, and of course Naziah's DNA is there as well. And when we look at that sweater specifically through the PowerPoint photos that Rion Green took and put together, we can see that there is a lot of markings on this. If the court looks closely on this, and I did, there are 15 phenol-positive stain markings on this sweater. This is just the front of that sweater. And of course, the court paid attention and saw the markings or the damage to the hood, that it is the people's theory would have been stab wounds or something to that effect that happened when Jarvis Butts murdered Naziah Harris. We also have to look, and it goes to the premeditation element as well as everything he did before, at Jarvis Butts' actions, specifically what he did to attempt to conceal or cover up his role in the murder of Naziah Harris. First, we have the glasses that he made sure he grabbed directly from Latricia Johnson's hands when shown, that are consistent with the glasses she had in the photo from the 9th when she was in school. We have the jail call to Cordell Wright to get that phone of his out of Miss Davis's car and into someone else's possession, which he testified he tried to do but was ultimately unsuccessful. And then Sergeant Jones testified that they ultimately did recover that phone from Miss Davis's car. There's the phone call to Latricia Johnson, which was played when she was testifying, saying to get anything he touched clean, to clean anything he touched, to get anything, don't drive her car, drive his mom's car, which is important because when you combine her testimony of when Jarvis Butts took her car, those 2 times on the 9th and 10th, and then either the next day or that same day, it's important because that car is the car that he transported Naziah Harris out to 7 Mile and Bird to either dump her body or to murder and then dump her body there. And we can go through all of the lies that Jarvis Butts told any detective or any officer that he testified to, but in highlighting those, he denies to Detective Mays that he was with Naziah at all or had talked to Naziah at all on the 9th, denies ever picking her up, denies to, even when confronted with the January 9th messages, he said that it wasn't him initially. Obviously, we heard in the subsequent interviews, specifically on June 1st with the OIC, he came off of that. He told Shannon...
Can you believe this guy? He denies to the Detective Mays that he was with Naziah or I talked to her at all on the 9th. Just like, nope, didn't see her. Oh, wow, okay. Denies even picking her up on the 9th. Denies talking to her even when confronted with the January 9th messages. Wow.
And Harris that Naziah texted him on the 9th. She says that he never did that. And we have some of their messages in the record as well. He denies going to a hotel and denies going to a hotel with Naziah Harris and denies having any sort of sexual relationship with Naziah, even though the text now messages completely prove that that is an absolute lie. We also have his motive. We know from Sergeant Jones that he was going to be going into custody supposedly on January 9th for until roughly December, I believe, is what Sergeant Jones testified to. We know that that date was adjourned because he said in his interview that he had a legal issue. He said it was out in Clinton Township, but I submit to this court that that's not the legal issue he was talking about. He was talking about the legal issue he would have had if Naziah had been left alive. He had to make sure that when he was in custody that she was not going to give birth to any child of his. That's his motive in this case. That's why that's January 9th. Sentencing date was adjourned to February 7th so he could take care of that potential legal issue. He was being told consistently by Naziah throughout the months that she might be pregnant, and then on 11/27, she says to him that it's hard to do this gym shit with this baby. Less than a week or 2 weeks later, he's searching on Google how to abort a baby, how to not just abort a baby or get an abortion, but how to do it at home, how to get rid of that without any medical professional or any responsible mandated reporter knowing about it. We clearly have that motive.
He was looking up antifreeze, he was looking up herbal teas and all sorts of do-it-yourself abortion methods. Oh my goodness. So this, if you are local or if you have information that you want me to correct or an address to add or a pinpoint or something, anything, this is we're just working on this timeline together. This is what we know so far based on the testimony. But please, if you have any information, you can email me, grizzlytruecrime@gmail.com. In this case, a lot of people have been talking about it since Neziah went missing. There's a lot of information out there. I'm basing my timeline and information on what they said at the preliminary hearing, right? But please, I welcome all information. If you're going to send me links, please don't just send me links. Send me a timestamp or what you specifically want me to look at, or if there's something to correct, I would really appreciate that. Obviously, the state as well, this would be their argument now, so that they're arguing so that the judge can take this case to trial. And then the defense also argues, right, why it shouldn't go to trial. And so the judge has to make a decision after this, and the judge did make a decision. We already watched that together, and it was really great. So if you haven't seen the judge's speech, her statement to Jarvis Butts, that was really great.
And obviously, Judge, one of the big issues in this case is proving that Neziah Harris is dead without having a body. On January 9th, she vanished off the face of the earth. There is absolutely no evidence after the 9th that she was alive, that she was sending messages to anyone. Her, again, legal guardian had not seen her since the 9th. No one else, officers, friends, family, have seen her since the 9th. There's no social media post reviewed by any officer to this day that would indicate she was alive. There's no messages, no further messages on text now after the 9th. There is a full and complete stop of any activity that would indicate she was alive. And Judge, I submit to this court that if that were the evidence that we had at this point, that would be enough at this point for a probable cause determination to show that she is in fact deceased today. However, there is more than that. Her hoodie found at 7 Mile and Berg, which we just saw a photo of, has Jarvis Butts' DNA on it and Neziah Harris' DNA on it, and it is covered in blood, indicating that something traumatic happened to her. And all the other evidence shows that something traumatic happened to her at the hands of Jarvis Butts. And then we go back to his motive. Was told by Neziah that she was pregnant, searched all of the home abortion procedures, and was going to go into the Wayne County Jail until December, which we just passed, of 2024. Judge, I submit to this court that the evidence that you have heard over the last 4 days proves not only that Neziah Harris is currently deceased, but also that she was murdered by the defendant, who had plenty of motive to do so, had plenty of opportunity to do so, and he did that. And I will note that the defendant in this case, Jarvis Butts, does not get a break because he successfully hid her body. The evidence to a probable cause determination, which the question is she probably dead, and did the defendant probably do that? Both questions are answered with a yes, based on all of the evidence that you have seen. I would reserve any further argument for rebuttal. Thank you.
Attorney Quick?
Thank you, Judge.
Sorry.
Kind of almost like a practice round of closing arguments. It's for the preliminary hearing. Remember, this is not the trial. So the state had their closing arguments for why they think this case should go to trial. Now the defense will have their arguments for kind of why they think it shouldn't, right? Obviously. And then the state will have one more chance at rebuttal. So it's not the state, the defense speaks for just less than 20 minutes or so, and then the state for about 5 more minutes. And then we've watched all of this as well.
I know how well aware the court is that we have a very serious task here. We've been here for 4 days, and at this point we have to look critically at what we've heard and what we've seen over the last 4 days and determine if there's enough evidence by a probable cause standard that Mr. Butts committed premeditated first-degree murder. And if you look critically at what the evidence is and the lack of connection between these pieces of alleged evidence, there is not even by a probable cause standard. To bind over on premeditated first-degree murder, there has to be sufficient facts or evidence to show by a probable cause standard that each of the elements of premeditated murder in the first degree were committed. First, there's got to be a death. There has to be evidence that the defendant caused the death of the deceased, that some action that he made or did caused that person's death, that there was an intent to kill, that the intent to kill was premeditated, and that it was deliberate. And here there is not enough evidence, even by a probable cause standard, that Jarvis Butts caused the death of Neziah Harris. There's been no testimony of any eyewitness stating that they saw Jarvis Butts doing any act that could have caused Neziah Harris's death. There's been no testimony of any eyewitness that they saw Jarvis Butts doing anything in preparation of doing something that could have caused her death. And
I mean, they make some good points. There are some good questions, of course, you know, and they're defending their client. So I understand, but it's like, yeah, there's a lot of gaps still in the timeline, of course. Obviously, at this point, it's not a trial yet, but there's questions. There's gaps in the timeline, and they make some good points.
There's been no admission of Mr. Butts to support that element. There's not probable cause to believe that Mr. Butts had an intent to kill Neziah Harris, nor that he premeditated her death. There's no evidence of any threats made by Mr. Butts to Neziah. There's no evidence of any threats made to a third party that he was going to do something or that he had a problem that he had to take care of. The issue or the statement was he had a legal matter. And Ms. Davis testified that she was aware of an issue that he had in Clinton Township and that she was the one that was driving him around to court.
Ms. Davis is Tashiana Davis, not Latasha, and she was Jarvis Butts' fiance, and she drove him to court on January 9th and February 7th.
There's no testimony that he took any specific action in a deliberation to kill her or that in killing her. There's Google searches about legal ways to abort a child, not how to kill somebody or dispose of a body. There's no evidence that he did anything related to the Google searches. There's no receipts of purchases or anything like that. And these text messages were 2 weeks after. They were, I believe, December 9th and 10th, which was, I believe, 2 weeks or 13 days from 11/27/23, which is the text message about gym class. And then there's this kind of cryptic text message in between that says, "It healed." We don't know what that means, but we don't know what Mr. Butts took that to mean. It doesn't necessarily mean that he believed she was pregnant. There's no evidence of a pregnancy. We have medical records until, I believe it's October of 2023, that don't indicate a pregnancy, that she had been to the doctor in September when she originally texts or messages Mr. Butts and says she thinks that she's pregnant. There's no evidence of a pregnancy. She went to the doctor. We heard from both her guardian, her grandmother, and her aunt, Shannon Harris, who lived with her. No testimony from either of them that they suspected that she was pregnant, that there was any medical issues that they had to take care of because that would have caused them to think that she was pregnant. There was an insinuation, well, you know, was she wearing baggy clothing? Was she wearing bigger clothing? There was no testimony that they had to go out and buy new clothes for her because her clothes didn't fit, or that she started wearing baggy clothing. She was wearing denim pants on the day that she disappeared, and there's no testimony that those were not pants that they had recently bought because she didn't fit into the clothing that she previously had. There's no evidence of any kind of plan. There's no messaging between Mr. Butts and Ms. Harris that indicates an escalation of animosity between the two of them. In fact, he essentially kind of starts to disengage. And so there's no written evidence that he had any kind of plan or any animosity toward her at that point. Our submission would be that he understood at that point that she wasn't pregnant and was disengaging. Let's talk about what we did see. So we know that Neziah got on her school bus around 2:45 on the 9th. She got off the bus a few minutes later, and then she was seen walking up Bedford. She was wearing at that point light colored blue jeans, a black hoodie, and then a colorful coat with fur around the hood. There's some insinuation that somehow there was a plan that she would meet up with Mr. Butts, but the testimony of Mr. Wright was that they were driving around that afternoon back and forth to various auto parts stores, and I believe that They, in fact, had to go back to one kind of unplanned because they either missed something or there was an issue. And so to say that somehow Mr. Butts would have known that she would have been on that street at that specific time and that they would have been there at that specific time is quite a leap, considering they didn't know where they were going to be when, because they were doing all this driving around back and forth to various stores. Witnesses put Neziah at Mr. Butts' auto shop later that afternoon, and then in Ypsilanti with Mr. Butts and Cordell Wright, and Mr. Wright puts her back at the shop later that evening. But then we hear from Sergeant O'Rourke, who did all the cell phone mapping, that at 9 p.m. Mr. Butts was actually at 13662 Wilshire, which is his home, where Angel Leonard lives and where they have kids. So did Neziah go back with him to that house? And then at 9:30 is when he checks in to the Park Crest Motel. Now, we don't know who was with him there, but there is no evidence that Neziah was ever there. They searched it, they took DNA, they took clippings of various things, they swabbed the shower drain, and there's no evidence that she was ever in that room. We did hear testimony that the Park Crest is a known place where Mr. Butts frequents and takes various lady friends for a rendezvous. It's much more possible and plausible that he took one of his lady friends there, than somebody who he was going to kill, right? He's going to a place where they know him. He's a frequent flyer there. And is he going to take somebody there where he would later, before he was going to kill them? That makes no sense. That is not logical. We heard then that after Mr. Butts left the Park Crest Motel, he went to 4 Alexandrine, which is Midtown, so kind of across town, and that's where his other girlfriend, Najeen Rushing, lives. So did he take Neziah with him there to see Miss Rushing? And he stays there for a while, I think, according to Sergeant O'Rourke's mapping. And then we hear that he is at 7 Mile and Berg on January the 10th at 11:40 p.m. for over an hour. That's almost 24 hours from when he initially, it's beyond 24 hours from when he initially is with Neziah, or when he's last with Neziah. And so it's illogical to think that he was driving around with Neziah, visiting all of his girlfriends, or if he had done something to her previously, that she was in the car with him while he did that. And in fact, they took a cadaver dog around the car and didn't find anything, and they tested the vehicles, all of his vehicles, every car that he drove, for DNA, for any sign that Neziah had been in there, and they found nothing. And the call to Miss Johnson asking her to wipe down the Sentra that she used, that he had borrowed, is kind of irrelevant because she testified that she didn't do it. That she did nothing based on what he called to say, and they still didn't, nothing was found. We heard about a pink jumpsuit that was found. We didn't hear any testimony that anybody saw Neziah wearing this pink jumpsuit. She's not seen wearing it in any video. I don't believe that anybody even identified it as being hers. I don't believe there was any testimony from either Annette Harris or Shannon Harris stating, yes, we recognize that pink jumpsuit, that's something that Neziah wears. When did she have it? There was one blood stain on that jumpsuit. And the testimony from the forensic analyst, Rion Green, was that it was such a small stain that she was afraid she would consume it if she did additional testing. She tested it once and couldn't do any follow-up testing or confirmatory testing because she was afraid they were going to consume the sample. There was also no statistically significant support for finding Mr. Butts' DNA on that stain sample from the pink jumpsuit. And there was no statistically significant probability that his DNA was on the jumpsuit at all, that he had had any contact with the jumpsuit. And they took a lot of swabs of that jumpsuit. I believe the number was that forensic analyst Anderson testified to, that it was 24 trillion times more likely to have originated from 2 unrelated unknown contributors than Jarvis Butts. Then we heard about the black hoodie And that black hoodie was significantly more weathered than the pink jumpsuit. We heard about that from the Border Patrol agent Barnes and other folks that came into contact with that sweatshirt, that it looked like it had been out in the weather much longer. And we don't have an explanation for that, but those appear to be tears in the top of the hood. They don't appear to be stab wounds, and they certainly don't appear to be bullet holes. There's weak support for conclusion that Mr. Butts was a contributor to the stain and the swabs of the black hoodie. The only real support for any DNA on the black hoodie was on the non-stained part. And there's testimony that Ms. Harris was wearing that hoodie on the 9th, that she was in Mr. Butts' Escalade when he and Mr. Wright picked her up after seeing her walking down Harper, that they were in the car driving up to Ypsilanti. And so the possibility that his DNA got on this non-stained part of the black hoodie is not evidence of premeditated murder in the context of all of the ways that we heard somebody's DNA can get on a piece of clothing. And I kind of talked about this, but we heard testimony that Mr. Butts drove both a Cadillac Escalade and a Nissan Sentra on January 9th and January 10th. There's a lot of pieces of those cars that were tested. Trunk carpet from various areas in both cars, the driver's floor mat, the driver's seat, the door handle, trunk speakers, the trunk frame. All of those things were swabbed for blood and nothing was found. We heard about a school ID card that belonged to Neziah. We heard Valerie Smith testify that she noticed it at some point in February, maybe a month or so after.
Yes, in February. Valerie Smith, she was a really great lady. If you didn't see her testify, everything is timestamped for you on part 1, 2, 3, and 4 that we've done as we watched a lot of testimony from this preliminary hearing.
Neziah was last seen, and that she decided to pick it up 2.5 weeks after she first spotted it. But she was pretty clear that she only noticed it about 2 weeks before, but that she looked at it every single day. Seemingly, if it had been there before then, she would have noticed it. When did it get there? We don't know. There was no evidence. There's no testimony as to that. And there was no other evidence found in the 7 Mile and Greenfield area, and there's no evidence that Mr. Butts was there. We talked a little bit about the medical records, but all they tell us is that Neziah Harris didn't have a life-threatening condition as of October 24th. They don't tell us anything about her physical condition between the 24th and the 9th, and they don't tell us that she was pregnant. They're just not relevant, except for the fact, I guess, that they don't tell us that she was pregnant, and she was there on September the 27th, according to her text messages. What we haven't heard in the last 3 to 4 days is anything about a murder weapon. We've heard that they collected guns, but we don't know if any of them actually operated, and they tested them for DNA, and there was nothing found. When did those guns get taken from a house? When did they get put back, if any of them had been used? And I mean, we just simply don't have any evidence as to whether they were even touched by Mr. Butts. But certainly there was no DNA from Ms. Harris on them, and if one was to use a gun to bludgeon somebody enough where they break the skin and bleed, there's going to be DNA on that gun. If somebody is shot at close range by a gun, there's likely to be DNA on that gun. They found no DNA on a gun. There was initially a testimony about all these knives that were found, and then when Mr. Riggins did a little bit of digging, well, one of them was a butter knife, one of them was rusted and under a seat and looked like it had been there forever. There's only one knife that they were actually interested in. They sent it for testing, and there was nothing on it. And we know that they can test for blood even if something has been wiped clean, because they do that, and in fact they did that in this case. And they found no blood on anything that the prosecution is positing could have been a murder weapon. Motive is not an element of premeditated homicide. There's evidence that Mr. Butts and Neziah had a sexual relationship. And we are, at this point, not contesting.
I'm not blaming her right now, but it's not a sexual relationship, it's sexual abuse. It's grooming, and it's a victim. Neziah was a victim of sexual abuse and grooming, right? It's not a sexual relationship. Just want to make sure that here in this community we say it right.
Testing the bind over on those counts. That would explain why Mr. Butts would not want to be honest about why he was with Neziah Harris. That would be enough to make somebody want to lie about their whereabouts or their connection to somebody. There's no evidence that it went any further than that for him. No evidence that he had been confronted by anybody about a sexual assault. No evidence that he was being threatened by Neziah to expose him or get him in trouble if he didn't do something that she wanted him to do. By the time January 9th rolled around, they weren't really speaking that much. She was, in those text messages that we heard, getting frustrated with him for ignoring her. But never once did she say, well, if you don't talk to me, I'm going to tell everybody what we've been doing. And so there's a complete lack of any motive for him to respond in that way.
She wouldn't have to say that because she was pregnant, so everyone would know eventually. And then she would say who the father is, right? So that is a threat, in my opinion, for him, which is what the state alleges is part of his motive, especially if he started giving Neziah the cold shoulder, right? And that day when she's really like sad, says the lunch lady, not quite herself, says the substitute teacher, wanting to see the counselor. That's a big deal. That's a change in her demeanor that day, and that's the last day she was seen alive. So I don't know if Jarvis maybe gave her the cold shoulder, like, no, I'm not dealing with that. That's definitely not my child, because he would then obviously be exposed, well, again, as a sex offender, a serial child, is what they called him at the arraignment as well. So I think she wouldn't have to threaten him by saying that. She would just want to talk to him, want to see him, and if he's like, no, giving the cold shoulder, that's already like, oh man. In his mind, I'm speculating, in my opinion, he could have thought, ooh, I got to make this problem go away quick, right?
And I would point the court to a case, it's called People v. Fisher, and it's 193 Mishap 284. It's a 1992 case, and I've got copies.
What was the last one?
Got it. Does the court want?
Yeah.
And I point the court to this case because it's a case where homicide was charged and no body was found. A woman named Joyce Fisher was killed, and I believe it was 8 years after her death, her husband was charged. He was convicted, and ultimately the appellate court reversed the conviction because the evidence was insufficient to submit the case to a jury, and so that was the error. And kind of the facts briefly are that Mr. and Mrs. Fisher were in the process of divorcing. It was a pretty contentious relationship. There had been lots of reports that he had been physically abusive to her, and she had even testified that he had threatened to kill her in mid-January of 1978, approximately 3 months before she disappeared. In April of 1978, apparently they were out together, they had lunch, and he was the last person to see her. After that, she disappeared. Now, there was no substantial testimony in that trial regarding her reliability, her long or short-term plans, that she had children, that she was devoted to them, and that she wouldn't have had any reason to run away or leave. And so that gave rise to an inference that she was deceased. The prosecutor in that case offered no evidence of an act that resulted in Joyce Fisher's death. And the court previously has held that the victim's body, while it's not necessary to establish corpus delicti, there has to be something more. There has to be, in this case, either an admission or confession, physical evidence, or some kind of witness testimony. In that case, there was no physical evidence, such as bloodstains or a weapon, linking the defendant to Joyce's death. He did not admit that he killed her, although the prosecutor offered equivocal statements there, that he seemed to say, well, things didn't happen quite that way, and where it made it sound like maybe he did have something or some knowledge. The prosecutor there presented lots of evidence of defendant's motive and opportunity to kill her. but noted that those are not elements of the crime. And inferences, the court says, may not be based on evidence that is uncertain or speculative or merely raises a conjecture or a possibility. And they said in that case, the evidence did not rise above the level of conjecture. And that's what we have.
Don't worry, we're almost done with this, and then there's just the rebuttal from the defense.
Here,
From the
we
state.
have conjecture.
From the state.
We have a lot of pieces of supposed evidence, but we have no connection. They don't connect to each other. They're puzzle pieces, and when you put them together, there's no picture. There is no big picture because there is no act that can be testified to that Mr. Butts did, and there's nothing to support that act. There's no evidence that he had a gun and used it. There's no evidence that he had a knife and used it. In fact, the evidence that the prosecutor put forward disputes those theories. The idea that Mr. Butts was in some cover-up, the issue of his phone, I think was pretty well cleared up by Ms. Davis when she testified to the idea that for as long as she's known him, he's never wanted her to look at his phone. And mostly because he's been dealing with who knows how many other women.
And children. That's the scary part. Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy said that he's an expert groomer, that he hooks up with these women to get to the children. That is so scary. He's already been convicted before. He spent like 15 years in prison before for those types of related charges and weapons related charges. And now he's facing first-degree murder charges plus CSAM plus sexual assault of 2 other female victims, which were both under the age of 13 at the time. One of the victims from the past was 4 years old.
She had tried pretty much everything she could think of to get in that phone well before any of these allegations came about, and that she's never been able to. And so it makes sense that he would not want her to get in that phone, especially if he assumed he was coming home and wanted to have contact with her while he was serving his sentence in the Wayne County Jail, that she not know that she was not the only female he was dealing with. We acknowledge that probable cause is a low standard, but it isn't just limited to whether the prosecution has presented significant or sufficient evidence on each element of the offense, which we submit they have not. They also must determine that there's a reasonable ground of suspicion supported by circumstances sufficiently strong to warrant a cautious person to believe the accused is guilty. That definition of probable cause, or that characterization, comes from People v. Carter, which is 250 Mishap 510. And so you have to have both elements of the crime met, and also those elements have to be met by evidence that is sufficiently strong to believe that it is relevant, that it actually proves what it is saying that it proves. And here we have conjecture, we have speculation, we have supposition, and we have somebody who he did have something to hide. But there's no evidence that he did anything about that. He didn't threaten her, he didn't ask her, or say if anybody finds out that, I will go to jail, or you could go to jail, or you could be hurt. There was nothing like that in any of those conversations that we saw. So, Your Honor, even by the relatively low standard of probable cause, we'd submit that there is insufficient evidence of both the idea that Mr. Butts did something to cause the death of Annette Harris, and that he intended to kill her, or that intent to kill was premeditated. We don't know what happened when she left his shop on January the 9th around 9 o'clock. But I think it's safe to say we know she didn't go to his house where Angel Leonard was. Or Angel Leonard would probably be here in court and telling us what a weird interaction she had with him.
Maybe she will be in court at the trial, right? That's the first home he went to from his auto repair shop after Cordell left. Then Jarvis went to this home in Wiltshire, to one of his girlfriend's homes. Well, they say it's his home. It's probably where he spent the most time. And there's some of his children there. So he went there first, but we don't know because we haven't heard from that lady. Well, did he have Neziah with him? Did you see a little girl in the car? Only thing, we don't know yet. We don't know yet. This was only the preliminary hearing. Maybe we're going to hear from those witnesses. I would hope so at the trial.
And why it was strange that he wouldn't come inside the house, or why he wouldn't let her out by the car where he was. We don't have any evidence that she went with him to the Park Rest Motel. We don't have any evidence that they were together beyond 8:30, 9 o'clock on January the 9th. And for that, we're asking the court to deny bind over on count 1, premeditated murder in the first degree.
Thank you, Judge. First, Judge, I'm going to start with talking about People v. Fisher that Ms. Quick just referenced. And it is important to note that this case is distinguishable for the following reasons. One, we're talking about a different standard. This was a trial issue, a directed verdict standard, where the court is saying at trial beyond a reasonable doubt. First of all and foremost, it's distinguishable for that reason. Secondly, though, the court in Fisher said in this case there was no physical evidence such as bloodstains or a weapon linking defendant to Joyce's death. In this case, we have bloodstains. We have bloodstains on the hoodie that was found at 7 Mile and Berg, where the defendant spent 2 hours on the night of the 10th going into the 11th. That places them together in the same spot and is very strong evidence that Neziah Harris is in fact dead. Secondly, though, Judge, having dealt with People v. Fisher, Ms. Quick talked about the 9th and 10th, that no one saw the defendant with Neziah for that day going into the 10th and into the 11th. However, we heard from one of his significant others or girlfriends that he was secretive, that he didn't want anyone looking at his phone. And we certainly know that he knows how to keep different women and or girls away from each other. For example, I believe it was Shannon Harris that testified that she was familiar with an address of Outer Drive in Belfort, but she had no idea other than the fact that she would pick the defendant up there at different times. We know through other testimony that the defendant was dating someone that lived there. And with respect to Ms. Quick saying that Neziah never threatened him, never did anything, I'm not sure if this one text message was highlighted by the OIC in this case when she testified, but on November 27th, 2023 at 23 hours and 37 minutes UTC time, Neziah said to the defendant, "When I see you, I'm a fuck you, tell you regret not answering my calls," which I would submit to this court is a threat. And then just over a month later, she says she goes missing at the hands of the defendant. And Ms. Quick also talked about the driving around that Cordell and Jarvis were doing and how it was an unplanned meetup with Neziah on the 9th. However, that may be true from Cordell's perspective, because he wouldn't have known what Jarvis's plan was at that time. But clearly, on the 9th, send okay if you've seen the message so I can delete your number, and then the defendant's response, okay. And Jarvis was the one driving per Cordell's testimony. Now, Ms. Quick also talked about the knives and how the knives found in the defendant's car of the one that was tested came back negative, and that's true. We cannot dispute that. However, we know that that was more than a month after, giving the defendant plenty of time to clean it. But beyond that, Judge, this case is one where the defendant thought to, and successfully did, hide the body. And it's a common sense inference that if he thought to hide the body, he would also think to get rid of the murder weapon at the same time. And Judge, Ms. Quick is right. We are talking about a probable cause standard. And as I said, the question is, did the defendant with premeditation probably murder Neziah Harris? And I submit to this court that the answer is yes. And circumstantial evidence, as is noted in the jury instructions at trial court or in circuit court, is just as good as direct evidence. And yes, this is a circumstantial case, but when we put those circumstances together, including the physical evidence, the cell phone evidence, which I would equate with physical evidence for purposes of that, as well as the defendant's opportunity and motive, the picture becomes very clear that the defendant, Jarvis Butts, took the life of Neziah Harris to protect himself from the eventual discovery of his child that he was going to have with her, or at the very least thought he was going to have with her. I ask this court to bind over as charged with the addition or increase of this criminal sexual conduct second degree. Thank you.
And that was it, everyone. We saw what the judge said after that. We saw it twice. We saw it at the beginning of part 1. We saw it at towards the end of part 4 as well. So if you missed it, please do go check out. The fastest way to find it is to go to part 1, because that's the first thing we looked at, is the judge's decision after hearing these closing arguments in this preliminary hearing. So I think that's what we have for today. I just quickly want to see, there may have been one more thing. Just hold on one second. We've been here for a while now. Oh, that was just, okay, I'm going to link some sources and for you, some videos that maybe you want to check out, some of the channels that I mentioned as well. So we've looked at pretty much everything we wanted to do today, which is, we did a presentation and then some map time. As I say, if you are local, if there's something that I need to correct or update or add, or if you have insight or something to share, feel free to email me, grizzlytruecrime@gmail.com. Thank you to everyone who's already been emailing me all sorts of things. You guys keep me awake at night. You're sending me down the rabbit hole, okay? I'm in it. So thank you so much for all the information. I really appreciate it. And I will see you again very soon. Oh, thank you, Sir Bolden. Sir Bolden Snark. He says, congrats on 386. Thank you so much. And thanks for being here. All right, everyone. I will see you again very soon. Stay safe.